You know, it makes you do a double take. When someone in a position of trust, someone like a former judge, suddenly finds themselves on the wrong side of the law.
Yeah, that definitely catches your attention.
So we're diving straight into, well, a fascinating and frankly quite surprising case out of New Mexico. The arrest of former Doña Ana County Magistrate Judge Joel Cano and his wife, Nancy Cano.
Right. And the headline, grabbing charge. Allegedly harboring a man named Cristhian Ortega.
Exactly. But the deeper you go, as we will with our main source, which is a Fox News report, the more complex and concerning this story becomes.
There are these allegations of gang ties, significant immigration implications.
Yeah.
It's not simple.
Not at all. So our mission today is to really understand the core of this, to kind of pull out the crucial details and see what this arrest tells us beyond just, a local news flash.
And what immediately grabs you is that collision between, local judicial power and the machinery of federal immigration enforcement.
Yeah.
This isn't just your average harboring case. The fact that a former judge is implicated, coupled with the alleged connection to a major transnational criminal group, it really elevates the stakes, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Demands a closer look. So let's nail down the basics of the arrest itself.
Okay.
According to the report, Joel and Nancy Cano were taken into custody on Thursday, April 24th, 2025.
Okay, so very recently.
Yeah. And this happened at their home in Las Cruces.
Right.
And the charges leveled against them are for evidence tampering, specifically related to these allegations of harboring Cristhian Ortega-Lopez.
Evidence tampering. That's interesting.
It is, because, if they were simply providing shelter, why evidence tampering? What does that suggest to you?
Well, the evidence tampering charge strongly implies that investigators believe the Canos did more than just offer a place to stay.
Right.
It suggests a deliberate act, maybe to conceal Ortega-Lopez, or perhaps obstruct the investigation into his presence and activities.
Especially for someone with a legal background, like a former judge.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of charge carries significant weight. It suggests they knew they were crossing a line.
It certainly does. Now, who is this individual at the heart of the matter? Cristhian Ortega-Lopez.
Yeah, let's get into that.
The Fox News report identifies him as an illegal alien. But the really significant detail that jumps out is the assertion that he is allegedly a member of Venezuela's notorious Tren De Aragua gang.
And that's a name we've heard increasingly, in discussions around immigration and transnational crime.
Why is that connection so significant? What makes Tren De Aragua stand out?
Well, the Tren De Aragua isn't just some run-of-the-mill street gang. It's known for its widespread criminal activities, extortion, trafficking, violence across multiple countries.
So highly organized and dangerous.
Very. So the alleged link to this organization immediately raises concerns beyond just immigration status. It brings in potential national security and obviously public safety dimensions.
Exactly. This isn't just a local issue, it seems. It has broader implications.
Definitely federal-level interest.
And we even have a statement from DHS Secretary Noem regarding these arrests.
Oh, okay. What did she say?
She emphasized the efforts to combat illegal immigration and specifically mentioned the Tren De Aragua. She cited a statistic that over 150,000 aliens have been arrested under President Trump, including more than 600 alleged members of this particular gang.
Wow. So that statistic really puts the focus on the federal perspective here, framing this arrest within that larger effort.
Yeah, it connects this specific incident to a much bigger picture of enforcement priorities.
Secretary Noem's statement clearly aims to do that, to frame this specific arrest within a larger narrative of national immigration enforcement and the perceived threat posed by groups like the Tren De Aragua.
Right. The numbers she provides are intended to underscore the scale of this effort. Now, let's dig into how Ortega-Lopez actually came to be at the Cano residence in the first place. The timeline here is interesting.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Back in February, he was actually apprehended at their home.
Okay, so this wasn't the first time authorities encountered him there.
Apparently not. It turns out Nancy Cano had initially hired him for some home repairs. Just, odd jobs.
Okay, that seems straightforward enough initially.
But then, quite surprisingly, they offered him accommodation in their guest house.
So it went from contractor to resident.
Essentially. It makes you wonder, what changed between the initial hiring and the offer of residency?
That's the key question, isn't it? The initial hiring provides a seemingly legitimate reason for his presence.
Plausible deniability, perhaps.
Maybe. But the shift to offering accommodation raises the question of when and what the Camanos allegedly knew about Ortega-Lopez's background and immigration status.
Right. Was there a gradual awareness or the specific event that led to this arrangement? Did they know who they were dealing with?
That's what investigators are likely trying to piece together.
Well, the subsequent investigation seems to have uncovered some pretty telling evidence.
What kind of evidence?
We're talking about gang-related clothing, tattoos, voicemails, and even text messages allegedly linking Ortega-Lopez to the Tren De Aragua.
Okay, so concrete things, not just hearsay.
Exactly. That kind of evidence goes beyond mere suspicion, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. That type of evidence provides a much stronger indication of potential gang affiliation than just an accusation. Physical items like clothing and tattoos, combined with digital communication. It paints a picture investigators likely found compelling.
It certainly seems that way. And Ortega-Lopez's journey to the Cano's guest house is also a crucial part of this story.
How did he get into the U.S.?
According to reports, he unlawfully entered the U.S. on December 15th, 2023.
Okay, so late last year.
Yeah, crossing the border near Eagle Pass, Texas, without inspection or authorization.
Eagle Pass. That's been a major hotspot, hasn't it?
It certainly has been a focal point in recent border discussions. His entry without authorization immediately put him in violation of U.S. immigration law.
Standard procedure there. The location adds context.
But here's a detail that might surprise some people. Despite this unlawful entry, he was apparently released by authorities just 3 days later on December 18th, 2023.
Released? Why?
The reason given was overcrowding at Border Patrol facilities.
Capacity issues. We hear about that a lot.
We do. However, he was issued a notice to appear. For anyone unfamiliar, what exactly does that entail?
Okay, so a notice to appear, or NTA, is basically the formal document that kicks off deportation proceedings.
Right.
It requires the individual to show up before an immigration judge at some future date. So while he was released from immediate custody, he wasn't just let go scot-free. He was still in the legal process for potential removal from the United States.
Okay, so the process was started even with the release.
Correct. Just often a very backlogged process.
Now, the investigation didn't just end with the Canos and Ortega-Lopez. It seems it extended to their daughter, April Cano.
Oh, how so?
Authorities seized 4 firearms from her residence.
4 guns. Okay, that adds another dimension.
It does. And adding another layer, there were apparently social media posts showing Ortega-Lopez with weapons.
Oh, boy.
Some of which he allegedly claimed belonged to April. This is getting more tangled.
Yeah, that really complicates things. It introduces potential additional legal issues, not just for Ortega-Lopez, but possibly for others connected to him.
Like the daughter.
Exactly. The question of who legally owned the firearms and, the circumstances under which he possessed them, especially given his status, that will likely be a big part of the ongoing investigation.
So facing all of this, Ortega-Lopez himself is now facing federal charges.
What specifically?
For being an illegal alien in possession of a firearm. That's a violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 922 G5.
Right, that's a common federal charge in these situations.
And if convicted, the potential penalty is quite severe, up to 15 years in prison.
15 years. That definitely underscores the seriousness of these charges at the federal level.
It's not a minor offense.
No, not at all. That particular statute is frequently used when individuals who aren't legally authorized to be in the U.S. are found with guns. The significant potential sentence reflects the federal government's stance on this.
Now, to get a broader perspective on this, the Fox News report includes comments from John Fabricator. He's a former ICE field office director.
Okay, someone with direct experience in this area.
Right. And he highlights that Doña Ana County, where Las Cruces is, has a history with issues like illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and human smuggling. It's not unfamiliar territory for these kinds of problems.
So he's providing some local context, suggesting the region has faced these types of challenges for some time.
Exactly. But he also voices significant concern about a former judge allegedly enabling this kind of activity.
I can imagine.
He even raises questions about, what other potential actions might this judge have taken. It's a pretty strong statement.
Yeah, Fabricator's concern specifically about a judge's alleged involvement really speaks to a potential breach of public trust.
A big one.
A very big one. In the judicial system itself, it raises serious ethical questions.
It really does.
Yeah.
And in terms of accountability for the judge, Joel Canarno, well, he did resign his position back in March.
Okay, so he stepped down before these latest charges.
Yes. And following that, just this past Tuesday, the New Mexico Supreme Court issued a ruling.
What was the ruling?
Permanently barring him from holding any judicial office in the state ever again.
Wow, permanent ban. That's swift and decisive.
It certainly is. Seems like a clear response from the state's highest court.
The resignation followed by the Supreme Court's permanent ban definitely indicates that the authorities, at least on the judicial integrity side, are treating these allegations with the utmost seriousness.
And acting to prevent any potential further impact on the judiciary's reputation.
Exactly.
Unsurprisingly, this case has also drawn some political reaction.
I bet. From who?
Amy Barela, she's the chairwoman of the Republican Party of New Mexico. She issued a statement calling for accountability and transparency within the judiciary. She emphasizes a frustration, perhaps a perception, that sometimes those in power might not be held to the same standards.
Yeah, statements like Barela's often reflect that public desire for accountability when individuals in positions of authority are accused of wrongdoing. It's a common theme.
And the call for transparency, too.
Right. A common demand to try and ensure public trust is maintained or rebuilt.
Finally, the report mentions that Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, is continuing to lead this case, according to KFOX.
So it's still very much active.
It appears so. This investigation is ongoing, and we may well see further developments down the line.
Yeah, the continued involvement of HSI underscores the federal nature and, potential scope of this investigation. It suggests authorities are pursuing all possible avenues and connections related to this case.
So let's try and bring it all together. We have a former judge and his wife arrested. The charge is essentially evidence tampering related to allegedly harboring someone.
Someone identified as an undocumented immigrant.
And crucially, believed to be linked to this notorious Tren De Aragua gang.
Right. And this individual, Ortega-Lopez, he had a prior encounter with border officials, was released due to overcrowding, but given a notice to appear.
And was later connected to firearms seized from the judge's daughter's home.
And now the former judge himself has resigned and been permanently barred from holding judicial office again by the state Supreme Court.
It's a really stark illustration, isn't it, of that intersection between local authority, judicial figures, and federal immigration enforcement playing out right there.
Indeed. When we look at the bigger picture, this case really forces us to confront some significant issues. It raises important questions about the responsibilities and maybe the potential vulnerabilities of public officials when they're dealing with complex immigration matters.
Especially when those individuals might have alleged ties to criminal organizations.
Exactly. It compels us to consider the potential for abuses of trust and, the ongoing challenges of safeguarding the integrity of both our legal and our immigration systems.
So, as you're listening to this, what are the key takeaways for you? Is this just an isolated, almost unbelievable incident confined to one county in New Mexico? A bad apple situation?
Or could it be indicative of something broader? Perhaps less visible challenges within our communities, maybe even within the justice system itself.
Yeah. When individuals who held positions of significant power face such serious accusations, what does that ultimately mean for the community? For the very foundations of trust in our institutions?
That's definitely something worth contemplating long after we finish talking about this specific case.